Yeah, I think we are live on Facebook and YouTube now. Hello, everyone. Good evening. Dhamma greetings to all of you. Welcome to our bi-weekly sutra discussion with the venerable monks and nuns living in North America. So let us begin our session by paying respect and homage to the Buddha. Let's recite Namo Tassa 3 times together. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. I pay my respect and homage to him, the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the fully enlightened Buddha. Okay, dear Venerable Sirs, dear friends in Dhamma, it's such a great joy for us to have this bi-weekly sutta discussion with all of you. And I know the venerable monks and nuns are now traveling. There are monks who are attending the 11th World Buddhist Council happening in New Zealand. And other venerable monks and nuns are busy with their own monastic, the temple programs. But I'm very grateful to have at least some venerable monks for this program. So before we get into the discussion, I would like to give a warm welcome to our venerable monks, and I would like to introduce them to our audience. So after a long time, we have Venerable Muniputto from, you are at the moment Hawaii?
Yeah, from Hawaii, Big Island.
Yeah. And I know you have been doing a lot of great work in Bodh Gaya. In last December, you also published a book in Cambodian language, and I have seen a lot of activities there in Cambodia, Laos, Thailand. So it's good to see young man like you doing
Thank
such a
you,
great
Bante.
service and being so concerned about the youths. And so very good to have you back. And next we have Venerable Ananda. He's joining the discussion from Cambridge, Ontario, Canada. And then we have Venerable Trudeau. This time he's joining the discussion from Thailand. He's also traveling, but very happy to see. It doesn't matter where you go, you still continue to be part of this bi-weekly discussion. So very happy to see you. And then we have Venerable Jayasara. Today you're joining the discussion from, is it Washington or New Jersey? Venerable Jayasara.
I'm still at Line of Wisdom, Bhante
Oh,
Rahula's place.
oh, Bhante Rahul is
Yeah, Maryland. Yeah.
I thought Bhante Rahul is still traveling. He's teaching in Brazil or somewhere, right?
Well, he's briefly back and then he's leaving again.
Okay,
So
very good.
yeah, he was in Brazil and now he's going to California.
Very good. And then we have Venerable Bhante Kusala. He's joining the discussion from Boston, United States. And 2 weeks ago, we missed you, Bhante Kusala. And very happy to see you for the discussion. And then we have Venerable Shanta Sobana joining the discussion from Los Angeles. So I would like to give you all warm welcome. And we also have some devotees who are here in Zoom platform, and I would like to welcome all of you. And then we have some friends and devotees who are watching this program live on Facebook and YouTube. And I would like to welcome all of you as well. And I have a kind request from all of you. especially those who are watching this program on Facebook and YouTube. If it is possible, please feel free to share this program in your social media timelines for the greater benefit of your friends and family members. I think that way you're practicing sharing the Dhamma, Dhamma-dana, gift of Dhamma, and you never know, through this discussion, your friend might benefit from this program. So a kind request, please share this program in your social media timeline. So 2 weeks ago, we had the discussion on the Anuruddha Sutta, the 8 great characteristics and thinking, thoughts of the great people. And we people really appreciated your insights. And today, we are going to have the discussion based on a sutra from the Majjhima Nikaya Sutta number 107, known as the Gaṇaka Moggallāna Sutta. And we have titled the discussion as a gradual training, a gradual doing, a gradual practice in respect of the Dhamma and discipline. So I would like to invite Bhante Kusala, who is happily presented himself to do the summary today and to give us the summary of the sutta. Bhante Kusala from Boston.
Thank you, Bhante. I was asked to do the summary and I agreed. That's what I like to clarify that part. As Bhante always does, he would remind all the monks and make it clear that this is happening.
Yeah.
And I remember I was told to lead this discussion, and I never reminded any monk like that. Only few monks showed up for the discussion. I was almost taking it personally, and then I realized it's because of these continuous endeavors and reminders that these busy monks, get reminded of also contributing their valuable time to this discussion. And congratulations to Bhante and all of us monks for doing this 75 times. This is the 75th session.
Mm-hmm.
And that shows that we have spent about more than 100 hours of Dhamma discussion, more than 100 hours, and many, like close to 75 discourses of the Buddha. And that's a lot. And we have no idea how many lives we have touched. And this too has taken a gradual, progressive, incremental path. So just like that, today's discussion is focused on an accountant, a Moggallana, because I think that name is so special in the Buddhist literature that there's the Venerable Moggallana. That name always goes with Venerable Sariputta, who these two are the two chief disciples of the Buddha. So to separate this accountant from that name, we have him identified as an accountant. And this is talking about gradual training, gradual practice, gradual progressive path. And in Pali, the discourse labels it as anupubba sikkhā, anupubbakiriya, anupubba paṭipadā. So this person named Moggallana comes to the Buddha and presents several traditions, such as brahmanical tradition where they learn the recitations gradually. They don't, like when we enter the monastic life, we are trained that way. When we learn some recitations, we are not given difficult ones in the beginning. We learn very simple things first, and then we are given difficult ones. So he's kind of observing that and bringing it to the attention of the Buddha. And he also talks about archers and the very building where they were, the Migara's palace, which also has the first step when you step into the monastery and then enters, and maybe climb up the stairs and then goes onto the first floor. And if you have to go to the upper levels, they didn't have elevators those days, but there is a gradual process of entering this building. And accountants, mathematicians, and everyone has their own gradual process to qualify, such as before you get a PhD, you go to preschool and then begins from grade 1, finish grade school, and then go to high school and then do a bachelor's degree and then graduate studies in master's level, and then some PhDs and postdoctoral studies, and it goes on like that. Everything is lined up, like in gradual, progressive training. So having observed that and having brought that to the attention of the Buddha, Gaṇaka Moggallāna asks, do you have similar training for your monks? And the Buddha says, yes, we do. And Gaṇaka Moggallāna is curious to know how that goes. And the Buddha takes this young male horse that as a parable, who will be trained gradually to do major tasks. And this parable is explained in Bhaddāli Sutta, that is Majjhima Nikāya 65. And having told that, the Buddha's teachings begin to explain how his training begins. It begins with the 5 precepts for a person. And you can ask, how 5 precepts can be gradual training. It starts with cultivating a harmonious attitude toward all beings. And that way you abstain from killing living beings. And then you begin also observing, can I protect others' wealth by not stealing their wealth? And can I control my sensual desire by respecting others' relationships? Can I also stop telling lies by speaking the truth? And can I also keep my mind and body safe from intoxications? So this is the beginning of this training for someone who begins to purify their behavior, purify their verbal conduct, and purify their mental purity, mental, I think, cultivation. Starting from there, you go to sense-restraint. There you are observing how when you hear a thing, when you see something, how instead of clinging to it, how you can observe it as an experience, non-identify with it, and let your awareness rest instead of capturing or creating a mental world out of it. In other words, you don't get deluded by all these sensual distractions. From there, you arrive at, because of your sense restraint, you are now arriving at wakefulness. Day and night, instead of being dull, you engage in practices like walking and as engaging in wakefulness instead of napping and sleeping and nodding and all of that. And you also, when you are prepared with wakefulness, you are able to observe what is happening clearly in your mind. This stage is called clear knowing. And after experiencing the stage of clear knowing, you are able to be present with your experience, starting observing what arises and what vanishes in your present experience. So you are kind of strengthening your practice with more and more mindfulness. And then you choose solitude. After that, you are observing where to purify bodily and mentally and verbally, and you notice the 5 hindrances that are present. And coupled with moderate eating, you are able to keep these hindrances. These are called nivaranas. You can keep them at bay instead of allowing them to bother and pull you down. You are able to suppress them with knowledge and wisdom. So your path becomes easier and your vision toward the path becomes clearer, and you are able to see better. With the hindrances temporarily taken down from your path, there's nothing hindering your path. You are able to open your heart to the what I now call golden gates, the dhyanas. And once you enter into one gate, there is another beautiful golden gate, and your mind allows you to see these experiences. And after that, you focus on wisdom training, especially toward gaining anya, the right knowledge, which means you stop believing the lies that your mind has created, manifested, and told you to believe, and instead you are able to see the truth for what it is, instead of getting caught up or overly worked up with certain things. You are able to undo it, deconstruct it, and your papanchas, the proliferations, are deconstructed, and you are able to see their rising, and you don't get fooled by them. So it started from the training that you started with the 5 precepts. And if you stay stuck at 5 precepts, I think for that person, you will see that there were more prescribed to you along the path. Having told that someone arrives at the true knowledge, that is, someone becoming an arahant, in the closing passage, the Gaṇaka Moggallāna asks this question, do you think, ask this question from the Buddha, do you think that all your disciples who learn this path attain this goal? And instead of answering that question, the Buddha does answer that question, saying that some people do, some disciples don't seem to care. And Gaṇaka Moggallāna then asks, why does that happen? And at that point, the Buddha asks, suppose, do you know how to get to Rājagaha? And Gaṇaka Moggallāna says, yes, I do. And if someone asks you directions, you will give directions. And instead of going to Rājagaha, they end up going to the west, and they get lost. And this is so simple, you as a teacher, we as monks sometimes also try to give instructions, and we fail. Some people are ready to take these teachings and instructions, and some people are not ready. They go south, they go in whatever directions they want to go, and they don't end up achieving the goal that we try to point them to. So this was the experience of the Buddha also. And what I noticed in reading the sutra is that the Buddha's point is to give a blissful, pleasant experience of the present life in all these instructions. Ditta Dhamma Sukha Viharaya Cheva Sangvattati. Sukha Viharaya, the way that the Buddha has laid out the map is for a monk to gradually train his mind, train his body, train his verbal conduct, and ultimately achieve the life where he does not suffer as he used to. And his attitude towards suffering has changed. A shift of his perspective has happened. He looked at certain things, not the old ways, but with the new insight he has gained. So this gives a pleasant life. You don't suffer with the experiences that you meet with along the way. So that brings us to the conclusion, and then the Gaṇaka Moggallāna praises the Buddha, saying that you are greatest among the current teachers that I have met. And he then, I think there are few other parables of all kinds of fragrant root. Spikenard is said to be the best of all kinds of fragrant hardwood. Red sandalwood is said to be the best of all kinds of fragrant flower. Jasmine is said to be the best. So of all the teachers in the contemporary world, you are the best. So looking at many teachers you have practiced, maybe those who are listening to us in the audience may have their own respective teachers that they think that is the best and is helpful in terms of cultivating their mind and practicing along with. So, and then Gaṇaka Moggallāna goes to take refuge in the Buddha, saying as if he were writing the overturned, or revealing the hidden, or pointing out the path to the lost, or lighting a lamp in the dark so people with clear eyes can see what is there. So Master Gautama has made the teaching clear in many ways to me. So from this day onward, may you remember me as your lay follower. Upasakang mam bhavang Gautamo dharetu ajjatagge panupetang saranang gatangti. So that ends the Gaṇaka Moggallāna Sutta. I think maybe in today's discussion, we monks can go back to these progressive steps that are described in the sutra, because we are at the summary yet, and see what was interesting in your path, and what was difficult perhaps in this training, and what has helped, and maybe add other teachings that may be as simple as the Metta Sutta or Mangala Sutta, or some words that strikes you the most, that inspires you to keep your practice going, and maybe describe where you were stuck in your path, and many things may come up, and I think Bhante will also guide us in that direction. And thank you, Bhante, for the opportunity to give the summary of this discourse.
Thank you, Bhante Kusala, for wonderfully summarizing this beautiful sutta. Actually, there are a lot of details, but you put in very simple terms for a better understanding of our audience. And I know, Bhante Kusala, you were actually talking about this, but you kind of mentioned, but we should take the sutta or the discussion. So, and I had this sutta in mind, and so that's why we have chosen this sutta to discuss. And here, actually, we see it's a gradual. I think the powerful Pali words is using anupubba sikkhā, the anupubbakiriya, anupubba paṭipadā. So it's a gradual training, gradual doing, and gradual practice in respect to the Dhamma and Vinaya, the Dhamma discipline. So there's a nice phrase that you have used, the golden gate, golden gate, the jhana. And to get there, I think there's a gradual steps to follow. As people say, you can jump to the top before. Of course, you can try, but there's a possibility of falling. But if you can gradually, like a ladder, climb then you can easily get to the top, your goal. And now there to get to the golden gate, and there are some steps to support us. And I think we see the morality, bhikkhu sīla hoti, and the sense control, sense-restraint, bhikkhu indriyesu guttadharo hoti, and moderation in eating, bhikkhu bhojane mattanyu hoti, and vigilance, bhikkhu jagariyang anuyutto hoti. The mindfulness and clear comprehension, bhikkhu sati sampajanena samanagato hoti. And then these steps actually help people to overcome the 5 hindrances. So I just want to, of course, once we make our mind free from 5 hindrances, then it helps us experience the jhana. And of course, jhana is a bliss, and we don't have to be scared of experiencing that bliss. That's also a form of nibbana, as Buddha explained. So now, just a general question to all our venerable monks. So what is the significance of this gradual training and gradual practice? And how can we do it? Of course, in our meditation retreats, actually, we incorporate all these practices. We begin the retreat with the sila, the morality. Then we try doing mindful sitting, mindful eating, moderation in eating. Then to keep ourselves vigilant, we try doing walking meditation, etc., etc. So what is the significance of these practices, and how can we, when we do it, maybe personally, and what happens to us? Like maybe it's a personal experience rather than talking about others. Maybe we can tell some stories. So I would like to begin with Bhante Jayasara from Maryland. And so Venerable Jayasara, of course, you have read this sutta and you just heard Bhante Kusala giving the summarizing this sutta. Now, in this gradual teaching, gradual training, what are your thoughts? Like, what are these things, by the way? What does it mean to you?
Thank you, Bhante. I think the concept of a gradual training is something that a lot of people don't really think about in terms of the practice, or they kind of think that things kind of just happen all at once, or they're waiting, and then they're awakened. But we have suttas like this. The Buddha is actually kind of showing us like the steps that we're supposed to be taking, and the various different gradual training suttas. One sutta, it starts with dana, right? Most of them start with sila, but to get to the Buddha is very clear. Even in the Noble Eightfold Path, we see that the Buddha says that the eighth factor is supported by the other 7. Right. So if you're like, I'm going to get into jhanas and all these things, and you're like, all I have to do is just sit around and meditate all day. No, that's not how you get the jhanas. You have to set the groundwork. You have to, have good sila. Right? And then you have to practice sense restraint and all of these steps. And as you it's like you're building a house, and you have the foundation, and you keep going up, and then once you have that foundation set, then you can get into jhanas and do these deep practices. But it's so important that we understand there's a starting place, right? And that starting place is not, I'm going to go to a jhana retreat, I just started meditating. The starting place is sila. And for many Westerners who come to Buddhism and meditation, that's not something they want to hear. especially if they've come from another religion, like I did, and it's like, oh, I just left these people talking about, oh, you have to be ethical and moral, and now Buddhists are saying this too. What's going on with this? Yeah. The one part of this, I always like to kind of find an aspect of the sutta that probably nobody else is going to talk about much. And one part of it I love about this sutta is at the end where the Buddha's talking to this person, and he says, well, yeah, even though the teaching is there and the Buddha is there, there's just some people that are not going to get it. Right? Like there's this kind of misconception that people have. Well, if I practice well, I can be reborn at the time of the next Buddha, and then I'll become awakened. And you think, well, no, you could be like David. You could be all kinds of. You see in the suttas all kinds of issues where even people became ordained under the Buddha and they still messed it up. Yeah. Like right after the Buddha passed away, and the monk says, the Buddha's always yelling at us to do all these rules. Now we don't have to think about it anymore.
Yeah.
And I think, oh man, this guy was a monk under a living Sammasambuddha, and he still didn't get it.
Yeah.
Right? The Buddhas only show the way. That's so important. You have to walk the path. The Buddhas only show the way. And the Buddha can't do it. If you're not ready, if you're not able to follow the path, the Buddha can't do it. The Buddha can't lead a horse to water or whatever, can't make him drink. So
yeah, so as you're saying, Venerable Jayasara, remember last 2 weeks ago when we discussed this Anuruddha Sutta, one of the great thoughts is Nayang Dhammo Duppanyas, this Dhamma is not for those who are lacking wisdom. And Dhammo Panyavanta, this Dhamma is for those who have wisdom. So maybe I think that the monk you were referring to it's a Subhadda. He's a very well-known figure. While monks were crying for Buddha's passing away, this monk says, why are you crying? You should be happy that he's no longer here to tell us to do this, to do that. Right? We are free now, but living under such a Samma Sambuddha, as you said, that monk failed to understand the essence of the teachings of the Buddha. So I think we can see this even there are people actually. I think when people talk about the sila, why do we have to abide by all these principles? So what's the point of that? People are scared of the rules, precepts, and I think these words really scare people. Rules, precepts, set of rules. People don't want to abide by rules, but that's the wrong translation of the use the sikkhā, but the training principle. Now people have to see why we need to train ourselves with these principles. And so now I think we can actually openly discuss the significance of the practice of sila, the morality. That's the beginning step, right?
Yeah. So Bhante, if I can interject with something that Bhante Gunaratana said one time during a retreat that I always think about.
Yeah.
And he said he asked, what's the difference between a rule and a principle? Or a rule or a precept? And he says a rule is something imposed upon you by government or whatever, somebody else. Yeah. A principle is something that you take upon yourself.
Yeah.
Right? So that's what the Buddhist precepts are. Nobody's forcing you to take the precepts. Even in like the Sri Lankan culture and different Buddhist cultures, it's like, before we do anything, take the precepts. But really, nobody's really kind of forcing you. You might just say the words, but you have to kind of choose to live and abide by those precepts. Right? Nobody is forcing you there, which as somebody who did come from, the Catholic background and the 10 Commandments and thou shalt not and all that, hearing that was kind of like, oh, I'm going to remember that, because that's something that a lot of people need to hear. right? That this is something that you take upon yourself. Nobody forces it on you.
Yeah.
And there's good reasons to do it. Even if all you want to do is get into jhanas, you should still practice sila.
Yeah. And of course, this is for the moral purity, right? The Charita Parisuddhi. Without moral purity, nothing happens. Even in everything, even government level, social level, they look at your honesty, right? This is very important. You're the man of principle. If you're not the man of principle, people are going to complain, criticize you. So anyway, so thank you, Venerable Jayasara. And if you have some more thoughts to share later on, please feel free to raise your hand. Now I see Venerable Shanta Sobana from Los Angeles raising his hand. Venerable Shanta Sobana, please share your wisdom with us.
Thank you very much, Venerable Sirs. And so when it come to this kind of sutra discussion, the last sutra discussion after we finished that, one of our senior monk called me. So that's mean they are just keep watching that because when it comes to sutras and it's kind of like we have to understand the very background of the sutra. That is very, because sutras is kind of like it's kind of like a cup. It's something, and so in this very moment it is comfortable for me to hold like this, and if I travel, then I can't take this like this, and if I go to hike or walk, then I have to change it to different cup. So sutras kind of like contain something. It is important for us to see what is inside it. So not the outside layer or the outside that what we look. So when it comes to this sutra, so the Gaṇaka Moggallāna was a Brahman, and as we know, and when it comes to Sanskrit tradition, it was a kind of like they had a very hierarchy system related to the knowledge. And when he came to temple, he started to look around the temple and observe each and every detail. And then he asked the question related to that all, and he explained, oh, Venerable, this temple is so look, it's a well designed, it well built. And so that's how he started the conversation. So, and when it comes to the Buddha, and as we know, in the early 20 years of the Buddha, there was no such a imposed discipline that by design like today. So all the ova the patimokkha, just by saying, somebody able to understand that what it means. And other thing is, when it come to after that event, that all the disciplinary codes that develop in the community of Sangha is very different than other disciplinary system. This all related to go towards the liberation or bring the change to inside us. So that is a totally different way of other things, because this is a path that we walk towards the Nibbana. That is the ultimate goal, that all the disciplinary code somehow contribute to that path. So another thing is that when it comes to discipline, it's rather than doing something, we always have to look, is it beneficial for us? So discipline always built in the community of Sangha to bring the beneficial to become ourselves, and at the same time to the community. So, and at the same time, we have to be very careful regarding the sutra, because that more than any other thing, I think in nowadays we misunderstood this the spiritual part, and come with many ideas in many ways. And so when in the Buddhism, there is no such a build up gradual system. Oh, it should be like this. There's in the Tripitaka, there is nothing. In the Gaṇaka Moggallāna Sutta, it explained like this. There is a reason for that, because in the sutta, what the Buddha said, because it is very important to know, in the sutta that the Gaṇaka Moggallāna asks from the Buddha, the word is anupubba sikkhā, anupubbakiriya, anupubba paṭipadā, paññāpe tunti. Paññā tunti means, is it possible? Then what the Buddha said, Sakka Brahmana, imasmin Dhamma-Vinaya, anupubba sikkhā, anupubbakiriya, anupubba paṭipadā, paññāpe tung. So, paññāpe tabbang, that means this is the way. If, here in the sutra, it's saying paññāpe tung. So, and according to the paññāpe tung, that word is the very key word when it comes to this sutra, because then this access to inside, in that website, how they translate it, it is possible. That doesn't mean this is the way. So that is very important to understand, because I have seen this sutra, even some retreat centers, some meditation centers, some people even follow this method as the Buddha's teaching. No, this is a one sutra that Buddha explained how someone can attain to liberation. There are many other ways. So we have to be very clear about it when it comes to Buddha, because when it comes to Buddha, that as we see all the sutras, that it's conversations. Buddha never built up like a Hindu tradition. Buddha never built up any hierarchy related to the spiritual path or the knowledge. Anybody can come to this, and it's kind of like it doesn't matter where the ocean, you can experience that salty. Same like from the Dhamma, if anybody willing, if anybody tired about what they keep doing, or if anybody say this is enough for me, I think community of Sangha is the place that they can come. So when they can come, so it's depend according to that person background, and that especially according to the person desire, why that person come to the community of Sangha will change all the teachings. Somehow, why this kind of the Vinaya or the disciplinary code build up, after first 20 years, what happened, this word of the Dharma spread everywhere. And then a lot of people came to Buddha's teaching, that most of them was not like today, very, very young. The most of came very kind of like middle-aged people. And they had different background and they had different practice. Come to Buddha's teaching. So when they came, sometimes they used to practice their own believing system and their own previous practice. And somehow they start to merge with the Buddha's teaching, that their own believing. So because of that, for some people, Buddha gave this kind of disciplinary system and this kind of gradual practice for them to get out of that, but not for all the people. This is not the model of the community of Sangha. We have to be very, very clear about it. So, because when it comes to Buddha's teaching, there's no such a thing like that. And other thing is, somehow out of this whole practice, the end of this whole, it contains the impermanent, unsatisfactory, and the selflessness. Whatever the discipline, why we practice disciplinary code, get out of this egocentric, self-centered mind. If a person can come out of it from another way, it is okay. But the practicing this help us to get out of this egocentric, self-centered mind. And At the same time, when it comes to our personal practice that we know, because in martial art, and when newcomer come, we always tell them to warm up their body. But some people don't like it. So class used to be in Sri Lanka. Our class used to be from city. It's like 1 mile away. So some people used to walk that 1 mile. Some used to come with from a three wheel, like a tuk-tuk, and used to come from their own personal vehicle. So if the person walk that 1 mile, when the person come to the class, right away that person warm up to practice. But if the person come from the three wheel or the tuk-tuk, he need kind of like a 10-20 minute warm up.
Yeah.
Come from their own personal vehicle, maybe putting the AC, that person need at least 30-minute warm up.
Okay.
Otherwise, that person get injured. So it is good for that person. So, and other thing is that why this kind of practice, gradual practice, Buddha introduced to some monks. The reason, because this the very model of the community of Sangha, they always one day need to be free from the society. They have to go to forest, or maybe they have to go and live themselves somewhere. So this practice will help them to be very sustainable and maintain their life properly and develop that spiritual path inside them. So that is very necessary. And how and what is the important thing when it comes to today life? So today we are living in Los Angeles, and here this marijuana is legal now. You know, a lot of people come for meditation, and sometimes 50% they come with, oh, I have seen light, or a message came for me regarding that to practice meditation, or I have weird feelings, I see things. So there are people come like that. So we have to with them, because we can't tell, no, this is not for you. So that's why when the person come like that with that experience, okay, then start from the bottom. So give the discipline, and little by little, slowly build up. So that help for them, because right away, if we try to teach them to practice meditation, maybe they understand it in wrong way. But end of the day, somehow these teachings available for anybody. Only thing is, teaching available for anybody 50%, but other 50%, honestly, with the faith, with the clear mind, with the right reason, that person need to put his her 100% effort to the practice, and that way that person can gain the success. So that is what I want to
that's a very interesting point that you have actually brought up. I think that's the another reason why I think you gave a nice example of the martial art training. You had to warm up for 10 minutes or 15 minutes. So there's a reason for that. So as Bhante Kusala pointed out, is a golden gate, the jhana. To get there, that is the people are practicing religion or spirituality or meditation for peace of mind, or inner peace, inner happiness. So then I think we have to have or prepare the background for such experience to come, or to get to that level. And I think it's not just, I think there are the other sutras where Buddha is talking about some other gradual teachings. Let's say even Noble Actual Path is another gradual teaching. So, and if we look at another sutra called Avijja Sutta, we see another gradual teaching. So this is maybe for one particular group where Buddha is pointing out, okay, this is where you should be starting your journey. And the morality is the foundation. And also Buddha said, no, the sile patiṭṭhāya naro sapañño. The sila is a foundation. Based on this sila foundation that we had to build our spiritualities, our practices. So that's very important point that you have brought up. Thank you. And now I see Venerable Ananda raising his hand. Venerable Ananda from Cambridge, Ontario, Canada. What's in your mind?
Greetings, Venerables and Dhamma friends. Bhante, I think it's a wonderful story that every time I hear anupubba sikkhā, anupubbakiriya, anupubba paṭipadā, this story comes to my mind of the Greek character called Milo. How I know this Milo story, because I worked with the Milo brand, which is the chocolate drink which is associated with sports. And Milo is the first, one of the sportsmen who I think started the Olympics back in the Hellenic Olympic. So what Milo did was, he was a weightlifter and he had this gradual training in mind. So in the beginning, he took a little calf who was just born and started running across the village with that little calf. And day by day, the calf grew. And he also grew, his strength also grew accordingly. So after some time, he was carrying a fully grown cow across the village because he was able to do it gradually. So I think then only they adapted the practice for gym-related things, how to build gradually. So I think it's very related that 2,500 years ago, Buddha was doing the same thing. And Buddha took the example of a horse, how a horse can be trained to become a better horse. And like Bhante earlier mentioned that especially if we go to the bottom of this sutta, Buddha talks about that I tell the beautiful path, the Nibbana exists, but some goes and some does not go. And then it describes, or Gaṇaka Moggallāna describes that faithless people who have come to Buddha for wrong reasons, they would not go to the Nibbana, even though if it's beautifully mentioned. But there's a set of monks or ascetics who would walk in that path with a pure intention, and they would go and succeed in their Nibbana. And now, having said that, introducing this morality or ethical restraint, I think is a very important part to this to any practice, because people could come for various reasons. I remember there's this one monk who came, one ascetic Brahmin who came to learn from Buddha, and he wanted to steal the Dhamma of Buddha and then use that Dhamma so he could attract more people. So people came for all types of reasons to Buddha, and the initial morality, like Bhante Santasobana mentioned, that it sort of screens some people who do not want to be ideally positioned in the stream. And also this sutta, I think, Bhante, is more meant for the closer followers of Buddha, the ascetics, because it gets into the Patimokka, even the Patisankha Yoniso Pindapatam Patisayavami that we chant every day before we take our alms. So it's meant for a lot of full-time ascetics or full-time monks who are in the path, more than for some of the laity maybe. Now, having said that, I also wanted to bring out a nuanced point, Bhante. Buddhism starts with the Samma Ditti. Before practice, we start with the Samma Ditti. So before we simply get into abstinence or subscribe to a principle, it starts with understanding. So I think that that goes on in this progression of the steps that for example, there's the Patimokka Samvara, and then Achara Gochara Sampanna, which means that you conduct yourself very well. So you know the basic norms of the society to conduct, and Anumattesu Ajjesu Bhayadassāvi, you are very sensitive about the smallest thing, and you are well aware of that. But then it goes to guarding the sense doors, Indriyasu Gupta Dwaro. Now, we find that restraint is a practice in, for example, in yoga philosophy. The yama and niyama is about restraining or abstinence. There's a belief that abstinence will take you to your emancipation. But then Buddha says that mere abstinence is not a path, but you need to do it with understanding. So this guarding of the doors, it was sometimes directly translated as restraining your sensory doors, but it's doing it with understanding. well-guarded senses is with understanding, it with samadhi in the beginning, and also the other one, other things like moderation in eating. Now, patisankha yoniso pindapatam patisevami, to me, it directly links to mindfulness, because it's not merely restraining or cutting down your food, because if that's the case, people who are doing keto diet, so the water fasting, they should also attain Nibbana, but it's not that way. And I think also the next part, the vigilance, the commitment to wakefulness. Now, one could literally take that if I'm going to stay up all night, I'm going to attain Nibbana. That's not the case here. So vigilance with mindfulness, because again, if you take someone who's up all the night, it would be a truck driver or a security guard who's always up at night, who should get emancipated. But again, that's not the case. So I think it goes below the literal meaning, that it leads towards to a very profound mind-related practice, especially like in the fifth case, the mindfulness and clear consciousness is mentioned. And also, I think although these sutras we discuss might look standalones or not connected, I think they are very connected. So if we follow the sutras that we've been discussing, like last time it was the Anuruddha Sutta, and even this one, it talks about the Aranyaka seclusion. So I think previously we discussed about the 5 hindrances in very detail. And also we discussed about the dhyanas in very detail. So I think it's a beautiful combination of all the knowledge that we gather along the way. So the main point I wanted to mention, Pante, is that in Buddhism, the practice starts with sammaditthi. So it's not a mere policy or abstinence that I subscribe to, but something I do with awareness, with understanding and mindfulness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very important. That's why we see in the Noble Eightfold Path, right? The first very step is the sammaditthi. Why if you don't have this clear vision, then there's no way that you can do the practice. So we have to understand the first that what is my goal. I think that is also principle that every organization, every company, based on the vision statement and mission statement, right? So that is the samma ditti. Ditti has to be very right for the undertaking the practice. So, and of course, then even to practice this sila, right? The sila, or eating, moderation, vigilance, mindfulness, and clear comprehension, all these practices. Why do we have to do all this? What's the significance behind it? If we don't see the significance, then there's no way that we can practice them, right? So that's very important to have that sammaditthi. And now we see Venerable Trudeau. Normally he's based in Florida, but this is traveling, and he's in Thailand. So what's in your mind, Venerable Trudeau? How do you see all these teachings?
Salutations to all of the most venerables present here today. I apologize, we have connection issues in the beginning, so if I cut off, please let me know right away. So my trip here was somewhat not planned, because I needed a break from so many years of doing clinical work. And there were many twists and turns and many surprises along the way that was very highly unexpected, that test through all of the checklists that we are talking in the sutta today. And as I sit and when I overview, see the whole list here, this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, the 7 elements here under the sutta that I wrote down, I realized that we're kind of like brushing off the sweat of all of these years of cultivating this practice, primarily in solitude, like policing myself, having to watch over, just because everyone is watching. As it's not easy being a social media monk, carrying yourself when the camera is not rolling, and when the camera is rolling, to be mindful of what one says, and when the camera is not rolling. So I was coming to see a sayadaw in another country, a very famous sayadaw. And, you know, the training, especially our uniforms, I think everyone over the years have observed how we monks wear a uniform quite loosely in the United States.
You had to explain who is Sayadaw, right? Sayadaw in Burmese or Myanmar language is a great teacher, right? Experienced teacher.
Yes, yeah, sayadaw.
Yeah.
And I before walking into this meeting, I realized that, okay, Venerable Chidao, you are a junior, super junior monk in this room. Everyone in this room is like sayadaw level monks. So you need to fix your robes right now. So I had to cover everything up, and I kind of try to sneak in. I try to keep a very low profile because I'm wearing very dark robes. I don't want any attention to me. And all of a sudden, the abbot of the monastery looks at me, and I realize, uh-oh, he wants my attention. And I said, oh, please don't ask me to come, please. I don't want to be. Well, you guys are having a very big meeting between two nations. It's a meeting between two nations. And all of a sudden, he signals for me to come over. He's a Mahayanan abbot. And I come over and I go, oh, man, this is a lot of cameras here. And then he asked me to interpret for him in front of the sayadaw. And there were some things that in an instant of a matter, I had to be ultra mindful, not just sati, but mahasati in those moments, because now it became a meeting between two nations and representatives of two nations. It felt like a UN meeting. Because before coming to this meeting, I already had warnings that there were going to be government officials, undercover government officials watching, and the permission and of embassy officials that's also there. And I think my stress level was like all the way up here. There were three primary interpreters assigned to this meeting, and no one was there. And so the abbot knew that I was from America, and he says, come. So there were some things that were said, something that were transpired that I was not aware of, that I was made to interpret. So I did the best that I could. And the Vietnamese side of the people looked at me, and I'm trying to move some words around in order to make this thing as smooth as possible. And some of the Vietnamese people were like this. And I realized, okay, I'm doing a great job. And then followed by a lot of pictures. Then I move over to Thailand here now. And again, we went for Bindabat, and I realized that everyone's watching when you're doing Bindabat, especially in a very busy urban settings. And they're watching the movement of the feet of the monk. They're watching the position of the bowl. They're hearing you give the blessing. So this sutta gave me a smile because I had to slow my life down a lot. And when we're walking in public and there are women present, you know, part of the 227 Vinaya rules has a lot to do with being aware of when the presence of women are around in obscure places, in dark places. No more than the 7 words in one sentence with a woman. So you know, and everyone is watching on a bus. Everyone is watching. People know English, and you don't know that they know English. So for me, I had to be ultra mindful of posture and sitting and slumping and eating. And they ask a lot of questions too. A lot of people, when I'm communicating with other monks, they come and they ask me random questions, and I have to be prepared to answer quickly because I don't know their background. So some of them can be journalists in trying to see if a monk is practicing right. How has he been practicing all this time? Likewise, I'm also testing the practice of Thailand monks. And it's funny because sometimes I'm speaking English and they don't understand right away. So I go directly, I skip the English part and I just do partial English and partial Pali. And Venerable Ananda earlier said samaditi, and I used that earlier, maybe 5 hours ago. And I told this one monk, I said, I really like Thailand. I'm going to organize a small group of Americans to come with me, to come to Thailand to practice meditation. And he says, why so far away? Why they have to come here? I said, so that we change the way how they see things. By traveling, it helps them see things more clearly, samaditi. And as I asked this, telling him this, I'm watching his face and I'm trying to see if he can connect the dots about the importance of being out of one's environment and to change one's view to see how others practice differently in Thailand versus where we are in the West, how we conduct ourselves, how we see the threefold training. So it's a system of check and balances here with the monks that have been shadowing with me, and I am shadowing with them. They're also trying to see how I've been practicing in America. They're asking about how many times do you eat in America? Do you eat past 12 o'clock? And I had to answer to those questions. And in regards to vigilance and mindfulness and overcoming the 5 hindrances, overall, this sutta, once again, another sutta that a person can observe and practice a whole entire year of each elements. I just want everyone to reflect on the morality part, where of which the Buddha said, seeing the dangers in the smallest mistakes. You know, from my standpoint, I'm just quite conscious, clear conscious. We move down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the 5th element in the sutta, which is mindful and clear consciousness. One could say maybe my standard's a little too high, but I joined the monastic order to make the order better and to set a clear example for other younger monks that I see who are lazy, who do not observe the 5 hindrances. I hope to inspire other people by and through my own practice. And so by seeing the slightest fault, when we see the first element in the sutta, immorality, you know, it don't become a habit. And that's one of the main concern is habits, habituation, and perpetualness of laziness, perpetualness of wrong speech, perpetualness of wrong effort, or not up to par, not up to standard of effort. These type of elements described in the sutta is made for a human to be efficient and effective in the role models that we need more and more each day. Our society and community, we can observe, particularly in the West, because I can only speak because I have observed in the West mostly, is that we have become lazy in a sense, not just only physically lazy, but also intellectual lazy. And it is so much easier to go on the phone, to resort to entertainment, to alleviate the minor sufferings of the mind. And whereas this sutta reminds us that we should really look at the hindrances and to remind ourselves to be diligent in our practice, to be ardent, and with each element of sense control to bring back the middle way, because you never know when you will be asked how you've been practicing all along. What is Buddhism? How can Buddhism help me? What is the middle way? How can Buddhism help my relationship with my girlfriend, with my boyfriend, with my mom, with my sister? These are some of the things that we, based upon our practice and explanation of other people, can quickly help them turn their life around, prompt curiosity, bring more followers into a right practice, right philosophy, a necessary philosophy now to curb the violence that's in the world. We just need more Buddhists out there. We need more Buddhists. We need more good Buddhists, ardent warriors of the Dhamma. And so this sutta definitely brings a smile to my face and will be key sutta that I will bring to Laos in the next 2 days, as I will be teaching English in Laos, perhaps for 2 weeks, maybe 2 weeks, and to remind all of the young monks there to always keep your eyes on the prize, as all of this will lead people to arahantship and to the 4 stages of enlightenment. As I close my ending for this contribution, they make rubber statues that I have displayed earlier on my own YouTube, but they have a Jan Sot, Long Po Sot, Long Po Man, Long Po Tut. And so they're plastic dolls, but they made very realistic features, characteristics of the previous arahants of Thailand. They put robes, which is the same material robes, on them. And it's like, why did Venerable Chidao drag 3 big, expensive plastic rubber statues back in his suitcase to sit there to meditate, to use them as the object of meditation, to see clearly, clear mindfulness, clear consciousness, and understanding that these are the most recent arahants with evidence that they achieved enlightenment. The enlightenment is easy. And when we think about the Buddha, maybe 2,567 years ago, too far, people have clear doubts, quick doubts. But when we see some of these arahants in the 70s, 1940s, we realize that these people verify that these were real arahants. And so it fortifies our faith and convictions that any one of us can in fact become an arahant. And you can become a very good, even lay teacher, like Venerable Ledi Sayadaw from Myanmar, who made one of his students a lay teacher, and says that how Ledi Sayadaw had arahants underneath him. And he said, this lay person can teach equivalent to me. Here is my staff. I'm giving my staff to him. So hear him. Anything that he tells you is as if I am telling you. I find all of these stories to be inspirational and inspiring. So I just wanted to end that. Thank you for having me contribute for this beautiful sutta today.
Thank you very much, Tridao. I think even that experiential knowledge, sharing that experiential knowledge, your experiences with our audience regarding these factors within the sutta is also very important to understand the essence of this discourse. So thank you so much for sharing your insights. And I know those great meditation masters they have mentioned from Thailand is with Hajan Cha and Moon. they in their teachings we see that highlighting these practices, the importance of the practice of sila, the morality, and the sense control, and etc. etc. So that's how they train their own disciples. So thank you so much for sharing those experiences. Next, we see Venerable Kusala from Boston raising his hand. Bhante Kusala.
Thank you, Bhante. I have this small insight that I think I should share because the discourse teaches about moderate eating. We now see a generation of people who are focusing on building their muscles, and I think what they are looking at is great. They have great effort, they have willpower, they maintain that body, and they achieve their goals, and that is outstanding. At the same time, if I think we also need to, I think if we look at healthy mind, that is a part that I think we all need to tell them, because sometimes some people like to stay very skinny and they try to avoid food, and this builds a lot of anxiety and stress, and they tend to compare with with those images. They see images of models and want to do a lot of things to their bodies, and they get worked up with it. And this, I think, shows an aspect of human nature that sometimes when we are focused on the body, we tend to lose track, or we tend to forget about the muscles in the mind, and they get weakened. And weak mental muscles, I think, don't give enough support. I think healthy body begins with healthy mind. And I think harmony between these two is essential. And we monks do know that we are supported by lay supporters, and they bring food, and we constantly practice awareness of moderate eating. And Bhante Anand mentioned the meal reflection we monks do. I was listening to this talk by Bhante Piyadasi, a famous monk in Sri Lanka, and he was talking about 4 nutriments. And when he came to the point of discussing about solid food, according to the Brahmaya Sutta and Puttamansa Sutta and Attiraga Suttas, he was telling something so fascinating. He said, people dig their grave from their teeth. By over indulging in the idea of wanting more and never being satisfied, and realizing that now within a matter of a short time, they are now diagnosed with some of the common issues that human body can face. So I think the focus of the Buddha is to also give us more perspective about how to look at solid food, comprehending it, and by comprehending solid food, not consuming only, but seeing the nature of how our body can see the taste, but remove the clinging toward food. And you can see that the Buddha, even after his awakening, he used a conventional language to describe fine food. But what he didn't have in his mind is that clinging toward certain food. He could realize that this food is good, this food is not good. In the same way, when he had back pain, he directly said, "Pitting me agilayati," my back hurts, and he assigned some other monks like Kachana or Kotita to continue the talk, and he went and began resting. If someone had the wrong conception that the Buddha did not feel any pain, he did not have any such suffering, that's a wrong conception. The idea is that he felt these feelings. He was not a stone where he didn't feel such things. He did feel them, but he did not suffer. He did not have the same reaction that an ordinary human being would have when it came to those experiences he had. So I think it's important to notice that sometimes having, enjoying food and all of that, I think monks continuously observe this very closely, knowing that if less is more. Eating less is always better. Eating just enough is always better. This is our practice begins from these day-to-day practices that we do. And when you are restrained there, and you are like in the Dhamma-Vinaya, Sutta, the Buddha praises the monk who refuses to eat while he is even offered the food and there is leftover food, and this monk decides to remain hungry. In that case, the Buddha is not encouraging monks to abstain from food. There is the need of eating moderately, eating I think following the middle path there too, but cultivating patience when there is food around, cultivating or being able to bear the feeling of hunger will lead to the benefit of that monk for a long period of time. That's what the Buddha looked at. These were not real monks, these were examples that he used to highlight a point. And you know that when the Buddha went to before he became the Buddha, he went to the extremity of abandoning food. And he became so thin, and that is a form that, that's the kind of practice he abandoned. And he needed the food. He needed food, and that food was offered by Sujata. And having received that food, having regained his energy, he then used his body as a vehicle to realize, fully understand the lies his mind has built about food in terms of food, and all the other lies that his mind has built. So I think this is why, when monks are given food, people give good food. And I think we know these monks, like Bhante Sorat, I think he used to say, people go to Divyaloka and monks go to Navaloka. Yes. So Divyaloka is heaven, Navaloka is a hospital in Sri Lanka. and this monks continuously trying to remember when this delicious food is presented to them, that they always learn to say, this is enough. And sometimes people say, I made this for you, have this sweet. And this is going to be a little struggle, negotiation between these very kind lay supporters and us, where sometimes some monks may want to have some sweets and please the please the donor, please the devotee. But this can get in trouble because the body does not understand what you did. So there, I think the willpower of the monk is so important, and maybe in a very kind way, you may avoid receiving that additional sweetness and carbs. And I think it's so important for monks to have some knowledge in how the breakdown of solid food happens, and also having that awareness of how much is enough for the body. You can say something like, I don't need any more sweets, I'm sweet enough, or I'm avoiding. Or my teacher used to say, if someone offered a tea and they asked, do you want sugar? He used to say, I brought sugar in my body, and I think I feel enough sugar. This didn't mean that he had diabetes, but he's aware that his body has enough glucose in his body, and he didn't need additional sugar. So if any monk has these habits that they have developed, that they can't live with sugar, they can't live with this or that, or they have to please the devotee, I think a strong willpower is necessary for them to recognize this tendency and let go and purify their conduct. Because if you eat less, you can eat for a long, long time. I mean, for a lifetime. That is what I meant. So this is just highlighting a very, very small side. I think I also like to bring up, as based in the sutta, that the Buddha encourages us to see the smallest fault in our conduct. Anumattesu vajjesu bhayadasavi. When you purify your conduct, you notice the slightest error. An example for that will be like you can justify a white lie and say, this is just a white lie and there's no harm by it. But what we need to observe is that when the mind violates something, it stays fresh in your mind even after 20 years. Body perhaps will have a scar and will heal, but the minds, when it is present, especially at the time you begin meditating, these things come fresh as if it happened today. Something that you did 20 years ago comes to your mind so fresh as if it happened yesterday. This is when you realize that, oh my goodness, my sila, I have neglected purifying my virtue, and this is now bothering me, and from now onward I must seriously take the purity of my conduct, and that way my own mind will not be shaming me or will not be giving me guilt toward breaking of certain precepts. So I think this factor is also so important for the audience. If you are breaking any precept, whether it involves drinking or telling lies, I think this needs to be immediately stopped and taken actions to discipline and purify your conduct. So that way, the moment you begin meditating, you are having an easy time, and a time with the time that you spend with your own mind will be an easy time, will be beneficial to you, and you will gain great benefits from that kind of practice. Thank you, Bhante.
Yeah, thank you, Bhante Kusala, for bringing up all these insights, the importance of the practice in moderation in eating, and also, and of course, there are a lot of people who suffer from guilt, actually. So to become guilt-free, we need to practice morality. So thank you. And we see Muniputto, Venerable Muniputto from Hawaii. So what's in your mind, Venerable Muniputto?
Good afternoon from Hawaii. You may hear the sound of chicken, maybe from my background. And actually, I just want to raise very short because of the time, and also because all venerable monks have featured all very important points of the sutta. And as we see that this sutta is a gradual discourse, so we see the key words in this sutta is the sila, morality. So in here, we can come to a conclusion that morality is the key factor to the spiritual attainment. So without sila, without this firm foundation, for sure, there will be not a chance for the spiritual success. So I believe that sila in here also plays very important role to each and every of the 7 factors here. You know, if we want to have a successful jhana practice, or you want to have a successful guarding again your senses, you know, so all of this have to do with morality because it governs our behavior, the way we act, the way we speak, the way we think. So in every activity, so sila is there, you know, like a principle, like a guidance for yourself, how to behave, how to think, how to utter a word. So this is really important. And for the gradual discourses, it reminds me about the one of the sutta that is called I think Sona Tanda Sutta. It's the Tika Nikaya 4. The conversation between the Pokara Sati, that the Buddha talk about the 5 gradual discourses. In Pali we say anupubbakiriya. So I believe all Honorable monks still remember the 5 anupubbakiriya that comes with the dana katha, generosity, sila katha, morality, sagga katha, heaven, Kamadinavakatha, the danger of sensual pleasure, and then Nekama, the Sangsakatha, the renunciation. So this is also like a gradual discourses that the Buddha usually deliver to people before he start off with any ultimate teachings. So he always begins with such things as to suit with the different temperament of the people. So I believe in conclusion, sila is still a very strong foundation for any spiritual attainment. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Venerable Munibutto, for bringing up that point. Actually, that's so true. It's without morality as a strong foundation, the spiritual goal is not possible. So we have come to the end of the program, and so let us wind this up. And today we don't have any monk to recite the Ovada Patimokkha verses, so I would like to recite the Ovada Patimokkha verses for all of you. Sabba papassa akaranang kusalassa upasampada sacitta pariyodapanang etang buddhana sasanang khanti paramang tapotitikka Nibbanang paramang vadanti buddha nahi pabbajito parupaghati nasamano hoti parang vihithayanto anupavado anupaghato Patimokhecha sangvaro Mattanyutacha bhattasming Pantancha sayanasanang Adhichittecha ayogo Etang buddhana sasanang. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So thank you, Venerables, for coming together on Zoom platform to have this wholesome deed discussing the Dhamma. And this is also a form of meditation practice for us, Dhammanusati. Through this Dhammanusati practice, discussing the Dhamma sutras, we were not only able to bring light into our life, we also brought a lot of light and hope into the lives of many people around the world. So this is a great meritorious deed. So by doing this discussion, we made a lot of merits. May all these merits, meritorious deeds, be of help to all of us, to all of you, to live a happy and peaceful life by the grace and power of the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha. May you all continue to be blessed with good health and longevity. May Devas, celestial beings, continue to protect and guard all of you with the divine blessings for your health and safety. Sabbe Satta Bhavantu Sukhitatta. May all sentient beings be well, happy, and peaceful. So with this loving kindness thoughts in mind, I would like to conclude today's bi-weekly, 75th bi-weekly discussion, and I'm hoping to see you in 2 weeks' time. Until then, all of you stay well and happy, and good night from Toronto, Canada. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Bhante.
Thank you.